House Bill 500.
Governor Beshear used his line item veto power to strike numerous parts of the state budget. He said he was concerned over unfunded mandates and cuts to Medicaid. And on Tuesday, some Democrats said they fear the budget will hurt some disaster response.
This budget has constrained what we can send for disaster relief.
I would remind everybody that the governor just chooses not to follow the law because he doesn't want to do it, instead of actually quoting accurate cases.
Both chambers also overrode House Bill 2 that deals with Medicaid reform.
Demonstrated time in and time out that there's a lack of oversight, a lack of accountability, a lack of responsibility.
The veto of Senate Bill 4 was overridden by both the House and Senate and then sent to the Secretary of State's office for certification. Its original language dealt with a principal leadership program, but while it was in conference committee, there was some new language added that focuses on school board member eligibility that'll have a direct impact on the Fayette County School Board chairman. Tyler Murphy may not be able to continue as board chairman according to the bill's language. Senate Bill 4's override cleared the Senate 30-8. Senator Gerald Neal was among the Democrats who voted no.
We should not move forward with legislation that creates uncertainty for families and ratepayers. For those reasons, I urge the vote to sustain the veto.
Lawmakers also overrode the veto of Senate Bill 100, which deals with attorney general appointments and energy planning. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.